Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we need to look at a card that's been revealed over in Japan. You see, this weekend, Japan have had a big championships and all that, and they went and revealed a new promo card. Except it's not actually a new promo card. It's an incredibly old promo card that was printed 19 years ago. Which is a little bit weird. And it's coming back, and it's ruining the unlimited format. Now, we'll have a chat about this at the end of the video, but basically, it is ruining the unlimited format, and some of you might not care about that. Most of you might not care about that. But on this channel, we are fans of the lovely David Hochmann. And David Hochmann very much cares about that. So we will commiserate with David at the end. But we should see what it does. And it is pretty much a reprint of the old one from Gym Heroes. Gym Heroes, incidentally, was released in August 2000. By the time this comes out, we're really looking, it's not, we think, going to be in our August set. So it's going to be kind of November 2019 at the earliest. So we are literally looking at 19, 20 years between reprints. And what it does is you draw 3 cards, and then your opponent may, if they wish, draw 3 cards. Now, this is a phenomenal card in the unlimited format because it's an item card. Back in the early days of the Pokemon trading card game, there were no such thing as supporters. Everything was a trainer card. And the rule for trainer cards was that you could play as many trainer cards as you liked during your turn. There was no item cards where you can play as many as you like, but supporter cards where you can only play once during your turn. It was very much go nuts, be nice. You can play as many as you like. So in the context of that, this card made a lot of sense. Now, we saw this happen previously with Bill. Bill was a flat-out phenomenal card from the base set that let you draw 2 cards. It was then reprinted in Heart Gold Soul Silver as a supporter card, and it was complete and utter garbage. And incidentally had previously been printed as Mum's Kindness or Mom's Kindness, which let you draw 2 cards. As an item card, Bill was phenomenal, because you could put 4 in your deck, draw it whenever you got it. If you've got a chance to play in the base set format, or you can find yourself a copy, for instance, of the Game Boy game, it's great. Because you can just draw 2 cards, and it turns any deck into a proper speed deck. Unfortunately, as a supporter card, it's utter garbage. And the thing is, we've got supporter cards. I mean, look, it was Cherin, and then it was Tiano. It's currently How. I feel fairly confident that your rival in the new game, Hop, if anybody's wondering. I did a video about all the new Sword and Shield news. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. When Sword and Shield comes out as a trading card game set, there's going to be a Hop card. Hop is going to let you draw 3 cards. That's what the rivals do, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they do. Anyway, where was I going? Yes. So the problem with Bill was that it was great as an item card, terrible as a supporter card. And in the unlimited format, you can play cards as they were printed, unless they've been reprinted. So as soon as Bill came out as a supporter card, in Unlimited you had to stop playing it as an item and start playing it as a supporter. So now that Erika has been printed as a supporter, when you're in the Unlimited format, you've got to stop playing it as an item and start playing it as a supporter. And the thing is, if you can play this as often as you like during your turn, drawing 3 cards is great. And yeah, sure, you've got to give your opponent 3 cards, but there's 1,000,001 ways at the moment to screw with your opponent's hand. I mean, at the moment, we've got both Judge and Marshadow, and alright, we are losing Marshadow when the rotation comes around, but we're going to have Reset Stamp, which makes your opponent shuffle their hand into their deck and draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. It's phenomenal. It is basically a one-of in every single deck over in Japan at the moment, and I don't see any reason why this would change anytime soon. The point is, this is a phenomenal card as an item card. Either you play it to give yourself ridiculous draw. I mean, look, Custom Catcher lets you draw until you've got 3 cards in hand. So I suppose if you can just keep emptying your hand, it's amazing. But we can't. Which is why Custom Catcher isn't the best card in the format. Because remember, when you play 2 at once, you get to... well, it's just an automatic gusting effect. It's fantastic. But that's not what Erika is. Erika is a supporter card. As a supporter card, is it good enough? No. It's not. Because the problem is, you're drawing 3, you're giving your opponent 3 cards. That's basically how. And I don't know... I mean, no, there's a couple of exceptions, we'll get to them in a second. But most of the time, you don't want to be giving your opponent 3 extra cards. Now, if you're playing Reset Stamp, you can play that if you were planning to anyway. But then you're basically just being awkward and playing how. And I don't know why you would care about that. Really, this is a worse version of how... because you're letting your opponent draw 3 cards. Now, there are 2 exceptions to this. The first exception is that there are a whole bunch of cards in the history of the Pokemon trading card game that do more damage for each card in your opponent's hand. So Hypno, for instance. Hypno, the one that literally just came out in Unbroken Bonds, does for 1 Psychic, 2 colorless energy, 30 damage, but it then does an extra 10 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. So here you can force your opponent to draw 3 cards, and then you're doing an extra 30 damage. And if this is a how and a choice band, maybe Electro Power is a better thing because that does extra damage to anyone, then that's really good. But it's few and far between. There are some out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, it doesn't happen all that often. There are going to be some cards, and that's amazing. And when you're playing cards like this, it is great. Outside of that, it's not quite so good. The other exception we've got is in milling decks. Now look, in milling decks, the goal is to make your opponent run out of cards in their deck. If they run out of cards in their deck, if they're unable to draw a card at the beginning of their turn, they lose. That's nice for you, not so much for them. So what you need to do is get them out of cards in their deck. The problem is that you run the risk of giving your opponent an out. So sure, they're drawing 3 more cards, and sure, that is getting them closer to decking out. But the problem is if they're drawing cards rather than you're discarding cards from the top of their deck, then they might draw an out, they might draw what they need to essentially get around your lock, and that's a very bad thing. If you're using Shuckle to stop them being able to attack unless they've got free energy attached, you might make them draw into a Welder and a couple of fire energy, for instance. Or you might draw them into a triple acceleration energy if they're an evolved Pokemon, and that would be a very bad thing. Certainly right before they're about to deck out, this is great. If you can play this when your opponent has 1, 2, or 3 cards left in their deck, then they start their turn with 0 cards left in deck and they lose. We see a bunch of decks like Oranguru, for instance, and Oranguru puts 3 cards on the bottom of their deck. So what you'll sometimes see Oranguru decks doing is literally having 0 cards in deck, and then they will put 3 cards from the discard pile under their deck, play a Zeb Striker during their turn to make sure they draw all of their cards, and then just basically keep going round in a circle. So the goal with Oranguru is to have 0 cards in deck, so that you can get 3 cards back every turn, draw them with Zeb Striker. If they're trying to do that against you and you drop an Erika, then they draw all the cards in their deck, all 3 of them, and then it gets to their turn, they've got nothing left and they lose. Except both of these exceptions have been relying on the fact that your opponent has to draw 3 cards. And Erika doesn't say your opponent draws 3 cards, it says your opponent may draw up to 3 cards. So in the Oranguru example, they can draw 2, not deck out, and not have to worry about drawing the rest of their cards. They'll have them all at the beginning of their turn. If you forced your opponent to draw, my two exceptions I've just laid out would be wonderful. And they would be really genuinely good reasons to play the card. But it's not mandatory, it's optional, and that's an issue. The thing is, as an item card, using it in Unlimited, you could play this many times a turn, so your opponent wasn't drawing 3 cards a turn. Your opponent was drawing their entire deck and decking out. As an item card, this was huge in the Unlimited format, and a lot of decks, a lot of best decks to be honest, really revolved around using Erika's over and over again to deck your opponent out faster. But you can't do that anymore. Now that Erika has been printed as a supporter card, you can never play it as an item card in Unlimited, and anyone that plays in Unlimited today woke up to the news that the format has shifted immeasurably. The last time the Unlimited format shifted this much was when Lysander's Trump card came out and then subsequently got banned, and that was back in 2015. So we've got a 19-year-old card that's being reprinted that is shaking up the Unlimited format more than anything else in the past 4 years. That, ladies and gentlemen, is weird. In terms of giving it a score, I'm going to give it 2 Wassies. I don't most of the time see why you'd play it over a card like Howl that just doesn't see any play. Most of the best uses for this essentially revolve around tricking your opponent into drawing 3 cards in a situation where it is disadvantageous for them to do so. Not sure that's what I'm looking for in a supporter. But I'd like to know what you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.